United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The prayer this morning will be offered by the good delegate representing Baltimore City.
Why is this night different from all other nights? That question was asked at Passover Seders last night. Why could this Orioles season be different from other recent seasons? That question was asked around the Seder table last night in Northwest Baltimore and elsewhere in the metropolitan area. The Seder takes place at home, not a synagogue. Baseball begins at home plate. The catcher signals the pitcher. The batter hopes to reach base and begin his journey home. Opening day may be postponed for one day, but the season will last for 162 games, 81 on the road and 81 at home. And after only 90 days, we too will return home to the people who sent us here. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is now in session. Clerk will read a journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March 25th, 2023.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So ordered, petition, memorials, and other papers. Recognizing the good delegate representing Anne Arundel County to announce our guest fourth floor presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and colleagues. On behalf of District 30A in Anne Arundel County, I would like to welcome to the floor the host of our Student Page Housing Program. Colleagues, the Maryland General Assembly has offered the Student Page Program for 53 years. Our student pages come from every part of Maryland, every county, and Baltimore City. Throughout the 13 weeks of session each year, student pages come to Annapolis and live for a week at a time in the personal homes of local families while they serve in the House and Senate chambers. These families open their home to host 2 to 3 pages per week, every week for up to 13 weeks during the 90-day session. The housing host provides safe, comfortable living environments and caring support and supervision for our student pages while they're here in Annapolis. The housing component is a critical part of the Student Page program. Without these dedicated families opening their homes to the pages, the Page program could not survive. Today it is my great honor to recognize this generous group of individuals who serve as a constant and valuable support for the pages and therefore all of us here in the General Assembly. Over the last 53 years, we have had a number of families throughout Annapolis who have hosted. This year, we have 7 families in Annapolis hosting our student pages. They are Dan and Amy Clements, Karen and Alan Marcus, Deborah and Joseph Connors, Sue King and Henry Shore, Michaela, Lynn, and Greg McDougall, Nan Henry, and Ann Sloan. Joining us today, representing 3 of the 7 housing hosts, are Miss Sue King, who began hosting this year in 2023, Miss Nan Henry, who began hosting in 2020, and last but certainly not least, our longest serving housing host, Miss Ann Sloan. Miss Ann Sloan began serving student pages in her home 46 years ago in 1977. Please join me in welcoming them.
Will the reading clerk read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Page host families in recognition of the extraordinary service, generosity, support, and care you have provided as housing hosts for the Maryland General Assembly student pages. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on the 6th day of April, 2023.
Report of the Committee on Appropriations, Report number 20. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 204, Maryland Aviation Commission, Duties, Compensation, and Member Orientation. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
There are 2 amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters commission requirements, alters commission voting members, meeting requirements, and reporting requirements. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 298, State Police Retirement System and Law Enforcement Officers Pension System, Deferred Retirement Option Program, alterations. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 675, Commission to Study Trauma Center Funding in Maryland. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 139, State Police Retirement System and Law Enforcement Officers Pension System, Deferred Retirement Option Program, alterations. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 162, Maryland Aviation Commission, Duties, Composition, and Member Orientation. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to the House version we just passed a few moments ago. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 263, Maryland Higher Education Commission, Access to Mental Health Advisory Committee, Establishment. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The first amendment is technical. The second amendment conforms the Senate bill to the House bill. Move the amendments.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 414, Commission to Advance and Strengthen Firefighting and Emergency Medical Services within Maryland. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 426, University System of Maryland Board of Regents Quasi-Endowment Funds. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The first amendment is technical. The second amendment corrects cross-references. Move the amendments.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 493, Commission to Study Trauma Center Funding in Maryland. Favorable.
The question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 660, Office of the Comptroller, Taxpayer Advocate Division. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 allows DBM to reclassify positions for the new Taxpayer Advocate Office. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations. Report number 30. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 1189, Economic Development, Cybersecurity, Cyber Maryland Program. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1, add co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 adds for-profit corporations to the list of entities authorized to receive grant funding. Authorizes rather than requires the governor to include an appropriation of $250,000 for the fund, and specifies that the fund shall be used for the U.S. Department of Commerce talent pipeline management approach only to the extent that there is funding. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 801, Economic Development, Cybersecurity, Cyber Maryland Program. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform House Bill 801 to Senate Bill 801 to House Bill 1189, which we just considered. I move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Ways and Means, report number 27. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 61, Property Tax Credit, Public Safety Officer. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 363, Video Lottery Terminal Proceeds, Purse Dedication Account, Ocean Downs Race Course Operating Loss Assistance. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 379, Election Law, Ballot Processing and Reporting Procedures, and 2024 primary date. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to House Bill 535 as it passed the House. The amendments require that mail-in ballots be sent to voters at least 43 days before an election if they have made a request at least 60 days before an election. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 396, Economic Development, Upper Shore Regional Council. Membership. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 makes conforming changes regarding the non-voting member of the Regional Council. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 452, Film Production Activity Income Tax Credit Alterations and Maryland Entertainment Council. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the definitions of film production activity and total direct costs for purposes of the film production activity tax credit, alters the amount of credits that may be awarded for certain fiscal years, and requires the Maryland Entertainment Council to include in its final report recommendations regarding the expansion of eligibility for film production incentives and the potential economic impact from that expansion. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 783, Preservation and Reuse of Historic Complexes Study and Extension of the Income Tax Credit for Catalytic Revitalization Projects. Favorable amendments. Amendment 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment 2 strikes the extension of the Catalytic Revitalization Project tax credit and clarifies the circumstances under which an initial tax credit certificate may be transferred. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Special order calendar number 53. The clerk will read the bill. Read, yes.
House Bill 1064, House Amenity Rentals, Sales and Use Tax Imposed and Local Tax Authorized. Favorable report is adopted.
Huh? Yeah. The chair of the committee special ordered this.
My apologies, Madam Speaker.
That's okay. I was wondering why he was getting up.
I believe my friend has an amendment at the desk.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right. The chairman, oh my goodness. The gentleman from Calvert. Can we redact that last sentence? Gentleman from Calvert. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, we did go to the same high school, so I appreciate that.
Gentleman has. Go ahead.
So I do have an amendment at the desk. It's amendment number 1064/873620/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment, Madam Speaker.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, folks, we have in front of us a bill, and the bill is House Bill 1064, Home Amenity Rentals, Sales and Use Tax imposed on those home amenity rentals. And we did hear some discussion, I believe it was yesterday, and I just wanted to make sure that I fully understood the bill, because it is a pretty sweeping bill, so I had a couple of questions for the floor leader, if I may.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Floor leader.
Good morning. So it appears this bill is doing two things. It appears the first thing the bill is doing is to impose the 6% sales tax on individuals at their homes who may have a pool in the backyard, as an example, and then choose to rent that pool to a family who wants to, let's say, use it for the day or for a few hours. Is that correct?
No. This rental needs to be facilitated through a home amenity rental intermediary, which is defined as a platform, an internet-based digital entity that advertises the availability of home amenities and receives compensation for facilitating these reservations.
Yes. So the answer to what I just said, I believe, is yes, which is that for the first time in Maryland's history, we're saying that your property, your house where you live, that has an amenity, an amenity could be a pool, it could be a garage, it could be a barbecue area, it could be a barn, which is common in my county, by the way. It could be a tennis court. It could be a bocce ball court. Could be all kinds of things. And to the extent that you have someone come on your property at your home where you live and use any of those things, the bill states that there's a 6% sales tax that must be paid.
Delegate, that is just not true. That's not what the bill says.
So why is it then, since you're saying that, sir, that in the fiscal note it says on the state fiscal effect, general fund and special fund revenues increase by a potentially significant amount beginning in fiscal 2024. The amount of the revenue increase depends on the number of home amenity rentals that occur each year and the value of the home amenity rentals that are subject to the state sales and use tax, the value of the rentals, which cannot be reliably estimated. As a point of reference, total sales and use tax revenues increased by $6,000 for each $100,000 of taxable home amenity rentals. So I think it's important to be transparent and clear that the fiscal note writer says that this is a tax of 6% when you rent your pool in your backyard or any of those other amenities, and the state's fiscal effect is its revenues will increase significantly to the extent that, and to the value of all of those amenities that people rent on their property.
What's the question, Delegate?
I'm just refuting the comment on the floor, and it's important that this is not a 6% sales tax increase on people's residences when they rent out amenities on their property, because it is exactly that, pursuant to the undeniably and well-written fiscal note.
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree there, Delegate. At some point in recent history, this legislature made the decision to tax short-term home rentals, right, through platforms like Airbnb. That industry has evolved. Now there are platforms, digital platforms, that allow you to rent amenities for short-term rentals. What this bill does, above all else, it's a technical bill, bringing into alignment short-term amenity rentals with short-term lodging rentals. Anything else that you're mentioning is outside the scope of this bill.
So not according to the comptroller. So the comptroller states that if you actually rent without a platform, your pool, in a private transaction between someone, let's say, a few miles away that doesn't have a pool, that the nexus is that you now are responsible for paying that 6% sales tax to the comptroller. And if, to the extent that you do it frequently in private transactions, you're going to be responsible for getting a sales and use tax certificate so that you can run this business at your house and pay the sales tax. The second thing, and this is my second question for you, or my next question, the second thing the bill does is it authorizes the local governments, specifies which local governments in particular, because I guess some local governments are already doing this, hard to believe, but specifies certain local governments that can put an additional tax on top of the 6% tax for the home amenities that you're renting at your house. Is that correct?
So I will just reiterate here, right? If you look at page 2 and 3 of the bill, it defines what is a home amenity rental intermediary, right? This is limited to rentals conducted through those home amenity rental intermediaries. As for counties, no counties are. This is an authorizing piece of legislation, right? It has that state sales and use tax component, but it also authorizes counties that wish to impose this tax to do so. It is not requiring any county to impose any additional tax.
So the bill then, per what you just admitted, actually does increase the 6% sales tax and apply it to home amenities from the state of Maryland, and that is so. But what it also does is it says to the local governments, including mine in Calvert County, if you so choose, in addition to the state mandating the 6% sales tax on your home amenity, if you so choose as a local government, you can actually add a tax on top of the tax when you rent your pool. Does that sound about right?
We often hear about simple and straightforward bills. This is a simple and straightforward bill to align short-term amenity rentals with short-term lodging rentals when it comes to taxes and regulations.
Thank you, Floor Leader. Yes, you were correct. It is indeed. I appreciate it, and I'm going to speak to the amendment now. I appreciate your comments.
Madam Speaker.
We are indeed aligning, which is a nice word of saying increasing taxes. So here's the amendment. I have the floor. To my good friend from Baltimore County, I would like to actually read my amendment now.
I asked the Speaker for permission to talk, not you, but thank you very much.
Okay. You can always tell when we hit a nerve. So to the members of the House, here's what the amendment does. The amendment simply says that home amenities, they do not include swimming pools, hot tubs, saunas, pickleball courts, tennis courts, bocce ball courts, basketball courts, barbecue areas, picnic areas, sports fields, or equestrian arenas, fields, barns, or stalls, or any other portion of a residential property. Residential property, your house, in other words, located in Allegheny County, Baltimore County, Calvert County, Carroll County, Cecil County, Harford County, St. Mary's County, or Washington County. In other words, this is a principled amendment saying that after you've already paid your tax to the state, your income tax, which you have to file with the comptroller every year, if you are self-employed, you pay a business personal property tax, and then you pay your corporate income tax, or if you're an LLC, you pay that tax. But then there's the property tax. You know, you've saved all of your life, you bought a house, you have a mortgage, and one day your dream is to pay the house off so that you don't have that mortgage, that burden. But what you still have is the property tax, the state portion of the property tax and the county portion of the property tax. And in my mind, that property tax is a contract with you, the homeowner, that hopefully in retirement it won't go up and you won't have to pay any other taxes. You paid off your house. There's nothing else that you owe anybody. As long as you pay that property tax, the state property tax and the county property tax. I think that's the contract that most people in Maryland think that they're entering into when they finally pay off their mortgage. But not now. Not with House Bill 1064. House Bill 1064 says that if you have an amenity at your house, if you were lucky enough to work your entire life to pay off that mortgage and you have some amenities like a pool, if you're lucky enough to have a pool, or fortunate enough, I should say, or you have just a really cool barbecue area, or we have a really neat court that's for bocce ball or pickleball or something like that, or a picnic area, and you enter into an agreement with someone to rent it for a few hours, now you got to pay the state sales tax on that. And that's in addition to if you happen to have an Airbnb and you're renting a room, which is already current law. If you rent a room in your house, you now got to pay a 6% tax on that. But in addition, now they want to impose this on these other amenities, which are not rooms, they're not lodging. That's what this bill does. And the other thing the bill does is it says you also may have to pay the local government a tax as well on top of that 6% sales tax. But as the floor leader said, the local government part is only authorizing. It's only authorizing. But the state part isn't authorizing. It's mandatory from now on when the bill passes, if it passes. Yeah, all those amenities, you're going to be paying a tax. And so this amendment is pretty straightforward. It says that home amenity does not include swimming pools, hot tubs, saunas, pickleball courts, tennis courts, bocce ball courts, basketball courts, barbecue areas, picnic areas, sports fields, or equestrian areas, fields, barns, or stalls, or any other portion of a residential property located in the counties Allegheny, Baltimore, Calvert, Carroll, Cecil, Hartford, St. Mary's, and Washington. It's a principled amendment. I think that when you work your entire life to pay off your property, and when you're working every day to pay for the property and to pay the property taxes at the county level and the state level, and with all the inflation that's going on, increasingly people are trying to find ways of making extra money by renting these amenities on their property. And no sooner does that happen than a state that has endless appetite for more of your money, it's always other people's money that they spend, finds a new way to make it harder for you to live here. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
First, let me just again clarify. We had this conversation yesterday. This tax is on the consumers, not on the property owners, the renters of these home amenities. As for the amendment, right, a swimming pool in Howard County is no different than a swimming pool in Carroll County. A bocce ball court in Prince George's County is no different than a bocce ball court in Cecil County. This amendment just creates inconsistencies in statewide law and would add complexity. So as such, I urge the body to resist the amendment. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the floor leader please rise for a couple questions?
Floor Leader.
Yes, sir.
Typically when we see bills come down here, it's because somebody either had a complaint or there was a problem. And when I look through the testimony, I asked you about this yesterday. It seems like this is a Montgomery County issue that you're probably familiar with, hence why you brought the bill. Can you explain to me some of the problems you may have had in Montgomery County and who brought the complaint, or is this just something you thought was a great idea?
Delegate, this is not a Montgomery County bill. If you go right now to one of these platforms where you can rent some of these home amenities, you will see that they are located all over the state. Right? I've had conversations with colleagues who don't live in Montgomery County who are now thinking about renting out their backyard swimming pool. Right? So this is a statewide bill. It is an issue of statewide importance. Right? It is not specific to any one county.
It's important for people to be able to use their private property in the way that they wish. What inspired you to decide to tax it? What problem are we solving by people offering out some of their own amenities to people that may not have the resources to have a pool? I see in here music studios. There might be aspiring young musicians that don't want to pay the high cost to get their own music studio, but want to rent out somebody else's house. My question to you is, what brought you to the point where you said this is a problem we need to fix by taxing it?
Look, that's a great question, and that is what you just referenced, right, is the beauty of platforms like this, where you can go and rent out your neighbor's studio, or your neighbor's tennis court for tennis classes. The point of this bill is that business evolves, industry evolves, and the state needs to keep up with that evolution, with that progress. Right now, we are not keeping up with that progress because a few years ago, when the state decided to impose a tax on short-term lodging rentals, this industry did not really exist. The home-sharing marketplace did not really exist. That has evolved. Our state is now responsible for keeping up with that evolution.
The reason that we impose taxes on people is because we assume that there's some state value that we're offering to people. The reason we have a gas tax is for the State Highway Administration, so we can we can keep our streets and our highways. What value is the state bringing to a personal property that you've decided we should tax it? Or is it just because it's moving we should tax it?
It's an issue of fairness, right? It's bringing into alignment the short-term, the rental of short-term amenities and short-term lodging. This is a very simple and straightforward bill.
The reason that we brought that was because the hotels felt like they were being shortchanged and they should be looked at the same. This has no other comparison. We're just taxing it because it's another way for individuals to gain some value from their own personal property.
There are plenty of other comparisons. So again, it is the same justification for why that bill was brought a few years ago. I will note, because we're discussing right now an amendment on counties, right, that the Maryland Association of Counties is supportive of this bill.
They're favorable with amendments. My point is, we are taxing individual personal property. Did you have anybody come in and say, please tax my property?
Look, Delegate, I don't think we're going to find agreement on this issue here. I think we should vote on the amendment. I urge the body to resist the amendment, and then I hope we can move forward and vote on the bill. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I stand in favor of this amendment. The assault on the taxpayers of this state is getting out of control, and when they're just simply trying to find a way to deal with this economy and inflation, for us to add another tax on something that's already taxed is inconceivable to me. With that, I move the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Roll call. Roll call.
Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Explain my vote, if I may.
How long are you going to take? 30 seconds? Go ahead. 30 seconds.
I guess if I get promoted to chairman, I might be shorter.
Go ahead. You're wasting time.
So in addition to the state tax and now the local authorized tax on your pool that you
excuse
rent.
me. You cannot explain your vote if you didn't vote on it.
Okay, here we go. In addition to the state tax and the local tax that's on this, on renting your pool and so forth, in addition to those things, you actually have to pay income tax on that revenue as well every year. Think about that. Tax at the state, tax at the local. You get your form of the income that you made from these things. Now you got to pay taxes on that as well. Then you got the property tax at the local level and the state tax. Way to go, guys. Way to go. Any other ideas you have to raise taxes? Yeah, I'm agreeing on this amendment. We need to protect people with all of the inflation going on and with the out of the control prices, and this amendment does just that. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Who has the next vote? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, to explain my vote. I'm disappointed that the Baltimore County delegation didn't get to consider this bill, as it's a direct impact on the delegation. And so I'm urging Baltimore County delegates to vote for this amendment. Let's bring this tax to the delegation and let us consider it individually. Thank you.
Chairman of the county delegation to explain his vote.
Exactly. I'm surprised to see my county's name in here. This is the first I've heard of it. First of all, will the floor leader rise on the amendment? Oh no, we're explaining
can't
votes.
do it. Explain
We're
your
explaining
vote.
votes. I'm compelled to vote against this because it has not had proper consideration in my delegation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Young lady from Hartford, explain her vote.
My vote's a little different. I'm kind of concerned because it's setting a pattern and it could create unintended consequences such as increase in homeowners insurance, umbrella insurances, liability insurances. Also, it really kind of commercializes neighborhoods. And I'm just not sure that that's really what we should be doing. In other words, if a neighbor wants to rent somebody's pool, we're kind of like, why are we doing this? We're turning it into a commercial endeavor where people have to pay taxes. I mean, pretty soon, we're going to be paying taxes on the air. So that's why I voted against it. Unintended consequences, which we have no idea what they'll be. Thank you.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed, printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 55. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 691, Home Amenity Rentals, Sales and Use Tax Imposed and Local Tax Authorized. Favorable report is amended, adopted.
Maker of the motion, the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess as the amendment was rejected, I will withdraw my motion and let it go forward.
Okay. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 623-827.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you. Colleagues, this is very simple.
So
amendment.
much.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment is very simple. It just excludes Anne Arundel County from this bill. With that, I move the amendment.
Floor leader.
Deja vu. We just had this conversation. I urge the body to resist this amendment. Thank you.
On the amendment.
I once again push the amendment because I spoke to my county council. They didn't ask for this bill. They don't want this bill. We don't have a single problem in Anne Arundel County with people wanting to be taxed for their backyard pools, their bocce courts, their basketball courts, their pickleball courts. With that, I move the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Everyone recorded their vote? Anyone want to change their vote? Clerk will take the call. Amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 133 members present, the House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 98. Clerk will read first bill.
House Bill 208, Street Racing and Exhibition Driving, Prohibited Acts, Enforcement and Penalties.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to explain my vote. After looking at this very carefully, I read the bill and read the bill and read the bill. I'm actually involved in people that have antique cars, street rides, rat rides, things of that nature, and we have shows, and they just pop up. And according to this bill, if you have a gathering of people and violate any of the two of these following different things, you could actually be charged with a crime. Just to give you an example, we have street rides that come down that, yeah, they are loud, they are obnoxious, and the tires do spin sometimes when they pull off. And these people are taxpayers, they're law-abiding citizens. These cars are not even really required. I think they have antique tags. So given that, I spoke to some of my friends and they were just appalled. I'm like, wait a minute, they're going to turn us into criminals overnight. and that's why I'm voting red on this. And when it comes back across, I'm going to try to amend the Senate bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any further debate?
Madam Speaker.
They're exempted.
It's not what I read.
If not, the clerk will call the roll. There being 111 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 208, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Joint Resolution 4, locating the new Federal Bureau of Investigation headquarters in Maryland.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There be 129 votes in the affirmative. House Joint Resolution 4, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Message from the Senate. Senate bills introduced in the House. So clerk will read the bills and committee assignments.
Senate Joint Resolution 5, the President, House Rules.
Special Order Calendar number 52. Clerk will read the bill.
House 197, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Records, Waiting Periods, Favor report as amended, adopted.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the floor leader, I believe my colleague, or I'm sorry, Madam Speaker, I almost never do that. I'm hearing it in my hair, hearing it in my head. We had a colloquy earlier today about whether or not this bill, which provides for what I would characterize as accelerated expungements, it shortens the time period from the date of conviction for which someone has the ability to file a petition for expungement. And my concern is that it would allow this accelerated expungement for people who had been convicted of a violation of a protective order or a peace order, which has a little bit of a different take under two different sections of Maryland law. Is that your understanding in the case? We had the amendment drafted. The analyst suggested that the bill still would allow for this accelerated expungement for someone who had been convicted of violating a protective order or a peace order. And I was wondering, before I offered the amendment, if you had found out anything more about that.
Thank you, Minority Leader. I appreciate you sharing the amendment with me. And yes, we did have an opportunity to talk today. I do not see this bill as an accelerated expungement, but I understand your position on that. With that said, the violation of a peace order or a protective order tends to fall in line with a domestic-related crime, which we have indicated on page 4 of the bill, of the amended bill, that there is a 15-year waiting period. So what this bill does is it is merely the waiting period in which to get the expungement. And so if one has a domestic-related crime, then they're going to have to wait 15 years, whereas the amendment speaks to a 10-year period. So it's kind of going to be a bit muddled and confusing.
So, and I appreciate that. A peace order or protective order may relate to someone that you have a legal relationship with, a spouse, a child, a parent. But a protective order may also relate to someone whom you live in the same home with. You may not have a legal relationship with them that would be sufficient enough to justify that domestic relationship. It may be someone with a more attenuated level of relationship or interaction. And a peace order, at least to my recollection, a peace order applies to individuals whom you may not have any direct relationship with at all. It may simply be individuals who are threatening you, harassing you, doing something else that you may have you don't have to live with someone to get a peace order to prevent them from menacing you, for want of a better term. Is that a fair representation?
That is a fair representation of a peace order. However, under section 6-233, the domestic-related crime is for eligible people who fall. It's a vulnerable adult. The list is pretty extensive. It could be a current or former spouse, someone you don't live with. It could be a vulnerable adult. It could be, well, it's quite a long list. It's 4-501, I believe it is.
The question, and I did provide you with a copy of the amendment, so we try to be on the same page. And I'm not going to offer the amendment if the answers, sort of demonstrate that this will be taken care of. That's why we're engaging in this.
Right.
It references Section 31508 of the Courts article or 4509 of the Family Law article, which are the provisions that provide direct criminal penalties for the violation of a peace order or the violation of a protective order. And my understanding is that under the committee's bill, specific violations of those articles would be eligible for this shortened expungement period. And so is that accurate?
It's accurate in the sense that a violation of a protective order, if that's all you have, could fall within the shortened time. However, it's that domestic-related crime that I keep going to because of the individuals that are listed under that domestic-related. It's an individual that you've had a sexual relationship, but you don't have to necessarily. It could be a vulnerable adult. It could be an individual that is a parent, a step-parent, a child. It could be someone who, so any of these individuals, it could be someone who is involved in a rape or a sexual offense. So in fact, the smaller is the violation of the protective order. That would be sort of the lesser crime, if you would.
That's what I was going to say. It was what we call sort of a lesser included offense to an extent, and that the committee's providing. There's a 15-year period if it's a specific domestic-related incident under the section of law that you're referring to that the individual was convicted of, but it would still be, I think it would be reduced down to 5 years.
That's correct.
It would be reduced down to 5 years if it's a violation of the sections of law that I'm referring to, or at least the amendment would refer to.
That's correct. That's correct.
On that basis, and I think you guys have done a wonderful job of making sure that those more significant convictions for the specific domestic crime set that you've referenced gets and maintains the 15-year expungement period. I would simply offer the amendment, if I could read the amendment, Madam Speaker. It's Amendment 23, well, that's a lot of threes in a row, 23323-1.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you. Move so much be considered reading the amendment.
So ordered.
And what the amendment will do, and you've heard some of the conversation with our friend who's done a very fair job of representing what the bill and what the amendment can do. There are situations that exist. There are things in life called plea bargains. We all understand that. And sometimes prosecutors confronted with a situation where an individual may be charged with a more significant domestic violation that the good delegate from Anne Arundel County described, which under the bill would have a 15-year period before you could wipe that off of your record because of the significant nature and the heinous nature of the crime. But there are situations where an individual may say, we'll take that down to what I refer to at least as a lesser included offense of the family law article or the courts article, a standard violation of a protective order or of a peace order. It could be an individual who stalks you. It could be an individual who threatens you. It could be an individual whom you had an altercation with. You have no existing relationship, but they have done something that the court has found sufficient enough to enter a peace order against them to prohibit them from continuing to contacting you or menacing you in any way, and they violate that. I want to make sure what we're talking about. These aren't people that first bite at the apple. These are people who the court has already concluded has done something wrong sufficient enough to enter an order to prohibit their conduct in the future, and they don't pay attention to the court system. They say, nope, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I violate the order. It's not just about them being charged with it. They actually have to be convicted. They go all the way through the process, and a court determines you had a valid order against you, you violated the order, you're convicted. What the amendment would do is require a 10-year period for those to be expunged. Expungement is a good thing in many circumstances, but when you allow records to be expunged fairly quickly, you take away the ability of a wide variety of interests in our society, from law enforcement, from judiciary, from future employers, from future individuals who may get involved in a relationship with someone, to discover perhaps some things in their history that don't condemn them forever to be a bad person, but perhaps need to be addressed and discussed. You may want to know that someone who you choose to live with has a violation of a protective order 5 or 6 years ago. You may want to know that they had a protective order. You may want to know that someone who you choose to enter into a business with has violated a peace order and has been convicted of it 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, not 20 years ago, fairly recently. You may want to know these things, not to say, that's it, I won't deal with you, I won't work with you, give people a second chance, but at least you may want to know those things as an indication of things that may exist. And so that's all the amendment would do, is it would restore or keep that 10-year expungement period for a violation of a protective order or for a violation of a peace order under existing Maryland law. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the argument. However, colleagues, I want you to know what we're talking about. We're talking about, one, a misdemeanor. If you fail to obey a peace order. We're talking about a penalty up to 1 year, $2,500 fine. We're also talking about the interim, the temporary, or the final protective order. An interim protective order could be as short as 1 week or 2 weeks. So for something that happened within a short period of time, you may have to wait a good 10 years, even though your charge is only 1 year. You satisfy that 1 year, or you pay the $2,500, then you wait, and you wait, and you wait. For a misdemeanor charge of 1 year, instead of waiting 10 years before you can get employment, before you can get housing, before you can get some types of clearances, you would have to wait 5 years under this bill. 5 years. We already are complaining about shortages in employment. We're already complaining about individuals. I want more taxpayers to be out there. I want more individuals who can contribute to society. I want more individuals who can regain their integrity. The name of the bill is REDEEM Act, and that is the entire concept behind the bill. Interim, temporary, or final protective order. If it is a crime that is a greater crime than the misdemeanor or violation of the protective order, then they may fall in some of these other groups of felony, and they may have to wait the 15 years or the 10 years or 7 years. However, this bill is about bringing or returning individuals back to society, back to housing, back to jobs, off the streets. So I urge you to resist the amendment and stick with the committee amendments on the bill and stick with the bill as it stands.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Very briefly, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. I know that they're incredibly well-intentioned, and I think they've done a lot of good things in the bill. I just want to make sure that we understand we're talking about a violation of a protective order. It's not that you got the protective order. It's not that it's what that amounts to. It is about a violation of a protective order. Anyone who has ever represented a client in a protective order proceeding says to them, the minute that you leave the courthouse, follow the protective order to the letter of the law. You cannot contact this person. You cannot make threats. You cannot stalk them. You cannot intimidate them. You cannot do anything anymore, because you know what that leads to? Violence. That's what happens. Someone says, I have lawyers deal in paper. Police officers deal in guns and in force and in preventing you. All we deal with is paper. I tell people that all the time. Am I protected? No. You have a piece of paper. That piece of paper is worth only one thing. It is worth the consequences of disobeying it. That's it. It's a piece of paper that if someone gets and says, I don't care, the consequences aren't that bad, toss it out the window, I'm going to do what I want to do, that piece of paper is worthless. We do not want our court system to be worthless. We want them to have value, to have meaning, And I think that this is a simple thing to simply say that a violation of a protective order or police order cannot be expunged for the same period of time it has been forever. I appreciate the means of the bill, the goals of the bill. I think they'll still be effectuated. Even if we accepted this amendment, we are reducing the expungement periods for a variety of non-serious and non-violent offenses, and that's perhaps a worthy goal. I wish that they had included perhaps driving while intoxicated in there, which can't get expunged in the state of Maryland. You want to put people back on the streets? You want to give somebody a job? Someone gets a DWI when they're 19 years old for blowing a .08? Try to go get that CDL and become a truck driver, because we all said can't ever do it. Can't ever get expunged. Soccer mom has a couple of Chardonnays one night and blows a .09. Nobody gets killed. Nobody's injured. That happens to that lady. She tries to go and become a school teacher, gets back. That DWI shows up on her record till the day she dies. So if we're going to do it, let's do it for everyone. I think this amendment has validity, and subject to further debate, I'd move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will call the roll. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill. This one.
Senate Bill 37, Criminal Procedure, Expungement of Records, Waiting Periods, Redeemed Act of 2023. Favor report is amended and adopted.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My questions have been answered.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'm going to go through. Any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered. Printed for third reading. It's a different bill.
Madam Speaker.
It's a different bill. Second reader. Oh, okay. I was trying to rush it. All right. It will be passed to third. Past the third reading. Second.
Madam
Gentleman from
Thank you,
Anne
Madam
Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to change my vote on HJ4 to green. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Any other? Yes. Gentlelady from Parford.
I have a vote change on HB 208 to nay.
Any other vote changes? Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 31. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 430, Police Immunity and Accountability Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Move so much for the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes the substances of the bill as introduced and requires a court to notify the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission of the filing of a civil action against a police officer involving allegations that the police officer wrongly caused death or serious bodily injury to an individual. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the chair of the committee allow us a special order to the appropriate time later today?
To the appropriate time this afternoon, the second session, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is special order HB 430 until the second session today. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Report of the Committee on Judiciary Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 32. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 332, Public Safety, Law Enforcement, Body-Worn Cameras, Body-Worn Camera Appropriation and Financing Act of 2023. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the
So
amendments.
ordered.
The amendments just conform this to the uncontroversial Senate bill that you're about to hear next. It's technical amendment and a reporting requirement. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to print it for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 191, Prince George's County Office of the Sheriff, Duties and Deputy Sheriffs. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 just simply conforms the bill to House Bill 433, which passed the House earlier this session. Please move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 293, Corrections Incarcerated Individuals. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 330, Public Safety, Law Enforcement, Body-Worn Cameras, Body-Worn Camera Appropriation and Financing Act of 2023. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 clarifies language requiring DGS to post contracts negotiated on Maryland's Marketplace Advantage. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 592, Surplus Military Equipment Reporting Extension. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 789, Sexual Assault Evidence Collection Kits, Preservation and Storage. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 33. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 760, Maryland Legal Services Corporation, Affordable Life, Wills, and Estate Planning for Seniors Program. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. The amendments conform the bill to Senate Bill 351, which we are about to see next. They are technical and include an amendment to lower the appropriation from $500,000 to $225,000. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 351, Maryland Legal Services Corporation, Affordable Life, Wills, and Estate Planning for Seniors Grant Program. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Message from the Senate, consent calendar number 36, Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the first bill and committee assignment.
Senate Bill 151, Senator Augustine, House Rules.
Recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much to be considered SB 151 to be considered the reading of all the bills on the calendar.
Hearing no objections, the bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committees. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There will be 136 members present. The House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, Senate bills number 29. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 90, Commercial Law, Consumer Protection, Telephone Solicitation, Stop the Spam Calls Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 90, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 102, Natural Resources, Recreational Crabbing Gear, Individuals under the age of 16 years.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 102, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 148, Victim Services Programs, Supplementing Federal Funding and Support Victim Services Stabilization Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 148, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 157, Municipalities Charter Amendments, Notice.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 157, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 222, Environment, Reducing Packaging Materials, Producer Responsibility.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 222, Senate Bill 222, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 40. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 448, Alcoholic Beverages Manufacturers Licenses and Off-Site Permits.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 448, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 611, Office of the Attorney General, Environmental and Natural Resources Crimes Unit, Establishment.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 101 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 611, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 719, Public Safety State Fuel Security Program.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 719, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 823, Natural Resources Annual State Park Pass, discounts for law enforcement officers and first responders.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 823, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 827, State Commission of Real Estate Appraisers, Appraisal Management Companies, and Home Inspectors, sunset extension.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There will be 136 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 827, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 836, Maryland Native Plants Program.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 836, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just checked and saw that on House Bill 719, for some reason my button didn't work, and I want to be recorded in the green.
And the other vote changes. Okay. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 41. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 114, Property Tax, Real Property Tax Rate Increases, Notice Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 114, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 143, Electricity Net Energy Metering and Virtual Net Energy Metering, Accrual of Net Excess Generation, Net Metering Flexibility Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 143, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 300, Baltimore City Young Readers Program, Expansion and Alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 300, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 469, Task Force to Study Solar Tax Incentives.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 119 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 469, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 579, residential property service agreements, prohibitions.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 579, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 42. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 383, Family Law, Custody and Visitation, Notice of Intent to Travel, Maryland Child Abduction Prevention Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 383, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 486, Baltimore City Sheriff Staffing.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 486, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 560, Animal Testing and Research, Human Relevant Research Funding, and Animal Testing and Research Contributions.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 107 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 560, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 653, Child in Need of Assistance, Neglect Cannabis Use.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 653, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 732, Department of Disability State Coordinator for Autism Strategy and Maryland Commission on Disabilities, alterations.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 732, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 773, State Procurement, Liquidated Damages, Policies and Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 773, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 43. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 2, Department of Human Services, Electronic Benefits Transfer Cards, Theft of Benefits, Prevent Electronic Benefits Theft Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 2, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 341, Public Senior Higher Education Institutions, Reproductive Health Services Plans, Requirements.
It is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, The clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 341, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 457, St. Mary's County Public Facilities Bond.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, we had some floor debate on this yesterday, and I wanted to get a couple things off my chest. I was really disappointed in some of the social media responses from people I would normally call friends. So I'm feeling like, you know, I went back and watched the floor debate from yesterday, and I'm feeling like even the floor leader didn't have a lot of information, or the body really didn't understand this bill and what happened. So give me an opportunity to straighten out the bill in the record here. Look, first, this is public facilities bonds for St. Mary's County. This has nothing to do with state financing at all. This is authority for my county to go out and borrow more money. See, St. Mary's is a commissioner county, and there's only 6 counties in the states that has this requirement. So most of the members of the body are just not familiar with this process. And what is that contention with this bond bill, I guess in the members of the delegation, was a $15 million request for a YMCA. And the YMCA is to be built in District 29B. And, you know, I doubted the merits of this project right from the beginning. Didn't make a lot of logical sense to me. The project builds an indoor swimming pool right next to a current indoor swimming pool. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Not really. Because a small county like mine, if you're in northern St. Mary's, where I live, well, there's no public pool, there's no community pool, there's definitely not an indoor pool north of Leonardtown. So it seems like people that cry about equity the most seem to believe it the least. But without all that being said, we didn't give it much thought because all during the campaign, this was originally marketed to the public as a free project. And let me tell you, the requirement was for the county commissioners to donate some land, and then the YMCA was going to build a building, and that sounded like a good idea. Look, YMCA of the Greater Chesapeake there, that is a good organization. We want them in our community. Make no qualms about it. I saw some social media posts yesterday. Nope, that's not true. We want them in our county. But I don't think people understand the finances of it to a degree. By their last 990 report that I hold in my hand, that's publicly filed in 2020, this is an organization that after expenses made almost $16 million. They have $78 million in assets. So they could easily provide the funding for this project themselves. And matter of fact, that's what the majority of the public thought. But unfortunately, that's not the deal that my Republican Board of County Commissioners struck. They struck the deal to make it publicly funded. So the delegation, we really didn't have any, this wasn't on our radar at all until we have a joint meeting with our county commissioners, and they're like, here you go, here's a request for $56 million, $15 million of it for the YMCA. So at that point, you know, we had a lot of meetings. All of us in the delegation had a lot of meetings on it. And over the next 6 weeks, we tried to figure out what to do. And Madam Speaker, I think you'd be proud of me because we did everything we're told to do here in Annapolis. We strive for consensus, try to work with everyone's opinion. And I'm happy to say that what resulted in was 2 bills that were cross-filed in the House and the Senate. And right now, the Senate bills are over in the House Appropriation. It's SB 457 and SB 458. And when it comes down to it, and look, I took a delegation vote, and like I said, we strive for consensus. And I have an email right here. All members of the St. Mary's County delegation voted for these 2 bills. That's why I, as the chair, dropped them. When it comes down to it, the SB 458 bill that has the funding for the YMCA by itself has a matching fund request of $4 million. That's it. Now, I don't know why that is unreasonable and not so much of a problem here. Because at my time in Annapolis, the House Appropriations Committee has done hundreds of bond bills with matching requests. But for some reason, when the St. Mary's delegation does it, well, we're demonized. Our motives were impugned on this floor yesterday. That's unacceptable. If anybody wants to use this time, they should stand up and probably apologize for the comments that were made towards me and my county and our delegation yesterday. That's how I feel. Now, this could have been really simple and easily done, but it wasn't. It was done in the back room. A couple people only knew about it. That's why the floor fight happened yesterday. That's the story of it. I wish we had a functioning delegation, but it seems like we don't. We have a king, and that wherever the king says, that's what happens. And that's where we're at today. I'm going to vote red on this bill. I think my colleague, my junior colleague from St. Mary's, will be voting green because of the simple fact that we do need the $41 million for other projects. But hey, I've been up here long enough, and the other 60, 70 votes I've casted that were red this year, you certainly didn't need my vote to pass the bill. You didn't consider my vote or a delegation's opinion when you amended the bill. So I'll be voting red. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chairman of the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Got a lot to unwrap there. Let me start with this. The gentleman acts as though local courtesy is some kind of law. It's not a law. He acts like maybe there's some rule. You know, I got the Maryland rules here. It's not in the rule book. What local courtesy is a courtesy not to mess around in someone else's district. That's what we all agree to. It's a courtesy to one another. This project only, and good gentlemen, I understand very well what this bill does. Thank you very much. It's a project in a district that is not yours. It's not your district. And you talk about the money for St. Mary's County, fine. You're worried about the taxpayers of St. Mary's County. You pointed out there's $41 other million in this bill. I guess we all have to ask ourselves, why aren't you here cutting the projects in your own district if that's the concern? You are so worried about the money. Why don't you cut projects in your district and leave the projects in other people's districts well alone? I'll let the good gentleman from St. Mary's County talk about the merits of the bill, because frankly, that's for him to decide. The merits of a project in his district. That is fundamentally local courtesy. As for a green vote on this bill.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I guess what I want to reiterate once again is that of the hundreds of projects that are in this bonding request, only one of them, only one has these restrictions placed on them. This isn't just my district. I'm sure it's all of yours. A lot of times, communities come to us and they tell us, their kids come to us from certain communities, they tell us, hey, there's nothing to do. We need something to do. And so the community came together, formed a steering committee, and basically did a lot of outreach to these kids. And they came back, and the kids told us they wanted a community youth center. And so after 8 years, again, with petitions, letters, Board of County Commissioner meetings, a steering committee, they navigated all of that. Then eventually the county commissioner said, okay, we will entertain a community youth center. It was originally supposed to be a publicly funded community youth center, but a then county commissioner, now delegate in this chamber, who I actually agree with on this issue, didn't want to have public funds for the continuing operating costs. And so the steering committee, along with NAACP members, along with other Board of County Commissioners, took a trip out to the YMCA in Easton, and they came back with this plan to let's open a YMCA rather than have the county fund the operating costs of the community youth center year after year after year. And so here we are with our county commissioners finally on board after years of vetting, requesting a $56 million proposal or bonding authority request, and $15 million of that is dedicated to to this YMCA. Now, it's only authority to borrow up to. That's it. They don't have to borrow a dime. So it doesn't have to be fully funded. And I've talked to the county commissioners. There's still going to be fundraising. There's still going to be private money put in. The YMCA is still going to be expected to fund a portion of it. So that is all going to take place. But they requested the full amount. There is this notion that if somehow one group of people benefits and becomes richer, then another group becomes poorer. And it's this just false, I don't know, self-grandizement of like, I got mine, now you go get yours, but we're not going to give you any tools to go get yours. You know, the comment was made, my people have to pay for it. Well, what happened to one county or one Maryland? Because my people have to pay for projects in the North End, but I'm not up here complaining about that, because the North End, they deserve these resources too. I was asked during this entire process, you know, or excuse me, it was claimed during this entire process the North End has nothing. I said, well, what do you want? I will support it. I will go out and help you get money for it. Originally, nothing. Then, randomly, a swimming pool. Okay, if that's what it really is, I will help the North End of St. Mary's County get a swimming pool. No issue with that, because the kids in Mechanicsville should have the same opportunities as the kids from Great Mills or from Midland or from Mount Airy or from Mayo. It was also noted on the floor that 2 of the Board of County Commissioners are freshmen, and so they didn't know what they were doing. Therefore, they couldn't vote on this monumental budget. We don't have a bill or a proposal that doesn't let freshman delegates vote on a $62 billion state budget. That's crazy. There are plenty of freshmen in here who are attorneys and working professionals. They're just as educated and thoughtful and have the ability to vote on the state budget. And I know the 2 Board of County Commissioners that are freshmen, and both of them are very capable of voting on our state budget. Our local government didn't request these restrictions. The Bonding Authority Council doesn't advise that we move forward because they're not sure that they can sell these bonds. The county attorney doesn't agree with these restrictions. It's 2 people don't like a project. That's what it is. That's literally what this is. And so now, here we are in front of the entire House of Delegates in all of Maryland, airing out dirty laundry. That's what this is. A lesser delegate would have pulled out projects from the North End and put restrictions on those, but I didn't. I also did a little bit of homework. Went back through the state budget, the capital budget over the last 20 years, and I pulled out funding for YMCAs that the state has given money to. Now, I don't know what happened to the previous capital budget subcommittee chair, but she's probably doing okay. And she funded projects, gave money to projects unencumbered without any restrictions in places like Cumberland, Washington, Hartford, Cecil, Dorchester, Kent, Queen Anne's. No restrictions on that money. Other local jurisdictions have also helped fund YMCAs through donation of land, which will happen in this instance as well. They've also authorized bonding, and they've given tax credits. So it's just this one project. That's it, because 2 people don't like it. So I'm going to ask you to support green, or vote green on this bill, because it's not a partisan issue. Vote green for local government. Vote green for my African American community. Vote green to support these kids. And vote green because, frankly, it's the right thing to do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
To explain your vote?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm a delegate from Montgomery County, And before last year, I had never been to St. Mary's County before. But I went to St. Mary's County to knock on doors and support my colleague in 29B. And what I saw was a community that was a low-income community, that was a heavily black community, that was a working class community. And time again, every single person, white, black, and in between, said they needed a community center in their neighborhood. They needed resources. And they lacked the ability for their kids to have places to play. They lacked the ability to have programming. And so I am casting my green vote in support of those community members that I met there in St. Mary's County. And I want to thank the delegate from 29B for his fight and for delivering for his people in 29B. And it's so critical, colleagues, that we go back to the people and the resources and their requests, and that's what this is about. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the delegate and the committee for their work on this bill.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I also support the minority community in this district. My red vote is not against that. My red vote is against the process that seems to have happened, that there was not a delegation buy-in from this, and had that been the case, it wouldn't be a red vote. But I think that we do honor the delegation process. That's what we're supposed to do. And, you know, that clearly didn't happen here.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll. There being 120 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 457, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 521, Charles County Property Tax Credit for Volunteer Emergency Responders.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change your vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 521, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 537, Gaming Video Lottery Operation License Renewal.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change your vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 537, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 556, Maryland Community Health Resources Commission, Compensation of Employees.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 556, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Gentleman from Interim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on SB 2 from red to green.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For HJ4 to green. Thank you.
The gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Senate Bill 653 from yea to nay.
Any other vote changes? Okay. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 44. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 145, State Board of Social Work Examiners, conditional and temporary licenses to practice social work.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 145, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 277, Real Property, Share of Sales, Procedures, and Subordinate Interests.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 277, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 331, Baltimore City West North Avenue Development Authority, membership and procurement.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 331, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 644, Maternal Mortality Review Program, Local Teams, Access to Information and Records.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Call to roll. Clerk will take the call. There being the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 648, Electronic Health Networks and Electronic Medical Records, Nursing Homes, Release of Records.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 648, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 805, Maryland Medical Assistance Program and Health Insurance, required coverage for biomarker.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 805, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 871, Social Workers, Sunset Extension, Notification of Complete Application and Work Group on Social Worker Examination, Requirements for Licensure.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 871, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, gentlelady from Anne Arundel.
I apologize. My button did not work on SB 644. I would like to be recorded in the green.
644. Yeah. Any other vote issues? Okay.
Just kidding, me.
Gentlelady from Harvard.
Thank you. On SB 805 to nay.
Any others? Okay. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 45. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 855, Baltimore City Property Tax in rem foreclosure of vacant or nuisance property.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 855, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 865, Economic Development, Western Maryland Economic Future Investment Board and Senator George C. Edwards Fund alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There have been 135 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 865, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 46. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 487, Criminal Procedure Violation of Pretrial or Post-Trial Condition.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 487, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 826, Homeowners Property Tax Credit, Qualified Homeowner Application and Certification Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 826, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 831, Libraries, Regional Resource Centers, Governance Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 831, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 31. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 5, Hate Crime Civil Remedy.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 106 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 5, having received constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 42, Child Custody, Relocation of Child, Expedited Hearing, Assurance of Child Safety Act.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 42, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 67, Clerks of the Circuit Court Civil Commissions, Presentation and Reporting.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 67, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 99, Circuit Courts and District Court Dishonored Checks, Service Charges.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 99, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 100, Real Property Actions to Repossess, Proof of Rental Licensure.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 100, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 794, Behavioral Health Programs, Residential Programs, Food Service Facility Requirements.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 794, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Message from the Senate. House Bill 770. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 770, Blueprint for Maryland's Future, publicly funded pre-kindergarten Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports and Career Ladder Alterations, Amendment number 1.
The clerk will read the message from the Senate.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Delegates, the Senate does not proceed in the Senate amendments and agrees to a conference committee to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses. The House has appointed Delegate Ebersol chairman, Delegate Hornberger, and Delegate Wilkins. The Senate appoints Senator Watson chair, Senator M. Washington, and Senator Carrozza. Said bill is returned herewith.
Okay. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 36. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 154, Public Health, Mental Health Advanced Directives, Awareness, and Statewide Database.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 154, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 404, Hospitals Financial Assistance Medical Bill Reimbursement Process.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 404, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 411, Prince George's County Judges of the Orphans Court Compensation.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 411, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 446, Estates and Trusts, Trust Decanting, Maryland Trust Decanting Act.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 446, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 601, Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, State-Based Young Adult Health Insurance Subsidies Pilot Program, Sunset Extension.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 601, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 622, Medicaid Waiver Programs, Waitlist and Registry Reduction, and the WAIT Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 126 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 622, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 626, Health Services Cost Review Commission Members Appointment.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 626, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker,
Yes, General Lady.
vote change on SB 411 to red, please.
Gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My button didn't work on Senate Bill 404. I'd like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
Any other vote changes? General Lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change for SB 411 from green to red. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, General Lady from Prince George's.
Vote change on SB 411 from green to red.
Madam Speaker.
Gen-
Vote change for SB 411 from green to red, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on SB 411 from green to red.
General Lady Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on 411, green to red.
Any other vote changes? Okay. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 35. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 209, Task Force to Study Crime Classification.
Can't hear. At least I can't. Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 209, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 385, Criminal Procedure Restitution Orders, Recording Fees.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 385, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 391, Criminal Procedure Victims of Sexually Assaultive Behavior.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 391, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read. Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 450, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 546, Criminal Procedure Medical Emergency Immunity.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 546, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 615, Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services, Sexual Assault Evidence Collection Kit Reporting Program.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 615, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 686, Civil Actions, Child Sexual Abuse, Definition, Damages, and Statute of Limitations, the Child Victims Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 686, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Howard.
Thank you. My button didn't work on 686. I'd like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change on SB 411 from green to red.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Vote change on SB 411 from green to red.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 622, I'd like to be recorded in red.
Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 411 to red, please.
Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 209, I'd like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My button didn't work. I'd like to be recorded in the green for House Bill 450. Thank you.
Any other vote changes? Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 411 from green to red, please. Or excuse me, to red.
Any other vote changes?
Yes,
Gentleman
Madam
from
Speaker.
Baltimore County.
Yes, ma'am. On 411, nay.
Gentlelady from Prince George's and Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 626, green, please. Thank you.
Any other vote changes? Oh, gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to change my vote for green to red on SB 411. Thank you.
Gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to make sure that my green vote was listed on Senate Bill 411. Thank you.
Any other changes? Any other 411 changes?
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Green to red on 411.
On what?
Senate Bill 411.
Oh, okay. You're trying to hide that a little bit. Okay. Any others? Okay. Will the leaders come forward, please?
What's your point of view on this? What we don't. What we don't. We don't. What is the problem? Yeah, but we could, we're the public hearing. They don't hold it's a blip on the radar screen on the slide. They don't, nobody else cares. It raises eyebrows. It's not going to be overturned.
That ends the work at the desk.
Madam Speaker,
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
vote change from green to red on SB 411.
Gentleman from California.
SB 411 from green to red.
Are there any more vote changes? Look at your conscience. Is there any more vote changes? Okay. Are you just playing? Okay. Once again, that ends the work at the desk. We're going to do committee announcements, appropriations.
I guess while I'm up, 411 now. I'm going to stick with my vote on 411, Madam Speaker. No, we're going to meet, appropriations are going to vote at 2:30, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Judiciary.
I am not changing my vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. The House Judiciary Committee will be meeting at, we'll do it at 1 o'clock for a voting session.
Environment and Transportation.
I also don't care about House Bill 411. But I do care about the fact that the Environment and Transportation Committee will have a public hearing at 1, followed by a voting session.
Okay.
3 very brief hearings at 1:15, 1 o'clock.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Economic Matters Committee will be meeting right after session. Again, right after session for one brief hearing and voting. Thank you.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Government Operations Committee will be meeting at 1 p.m. for a voting session. Thank you.
Are there any subcommittee announcements? Okay. Any delegation announcements? Any caucus announcements? Any, yes.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
The Republican caucus will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in room 145.
Any other caucus announcements? Okay. Any personal or guest announcements?
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
You both from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to acknowledge that my staff members are here today, including my Ledge Director, Melanie Gorton-Newell, who's celebrating a birthday today, as well as the Baltimore City Delegation Ledge Director, Heather Bertling, and then lastly, but not least, our great intern, Jonathan Miranda from the 45th District. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to take this time to acknowledge my staff. My entire staff is here today, so I want to acknowledge my Chief of Staff, Ian Genovi, who's been here for 7 years, Tyler Shanella, 3 of my interns, Amelia Miller, who's a 3L at Maryland, Anna Kate Cagle, who is a dual, she's getting her law degree at Maryland and her public policy degree at Johns Hopkins, and Catherine Dong, who's getting her master's at Johns Hopkins and her master's in public policy and a master's in business administration at Johns Hopkins. Thank you all so much for your hard work. If you all can give them a warm welcome, thank you.
Gentleman from Baltimore County.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I'd like for the House to recognize a wonderful intern of mine. She is a United States Air Force Reserve. She's spent 9 years there so far. She's a technical sergeant. She's under consideration right now for the position of first sergeant, and she's a junior studying public policy at the University of Maryland. And honestly, if I had a daughter, I'd want one just like her. Tiffany, please stand. She is a great, great person. Wonderful. And also, there's 2 great colleagues and friends of mine from Anne Arundel County that are here. God bless.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd also like to acknowledge my Chief of Staff, Derek Blackwell, who's in the gallery, who joined us. Thank you so much for your work.
Madam Speaker.
Hold on a second. Gentlelady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to recognize in the balcony Miss Renee, and she's got a bunch of homeschoolers from all over Maryland with her. So they're in the back gallery. So everybody say hello and wave to them.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First to use delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have a birthday in the House today. For those of us who have been here for a while, we're always surprised to look up at the board for one of these big environmental bills the Minority Leader loves so much. And when ENT sends us the Sarah Palooza, is that Sarah Palooza. We're always surprised to see her name if we've been here a while. If you're new, you'll be surprised to hear we all expected all the Judiciary Committee bills to have her name on it, but I know we all share in cringing for her when we see coming out of her subcommittee a speed camera bill. So with that, I hope you'll join Delegate Wallach and myself in wishing a happy birthday to Delegate Sarah Love.
Can't tell that everybody sits down with who wants to speak.
Madam Speaker.
All right.
Madam Speaker.
Huh? Gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Madam Speaker, I'd just like to thank the distinguished Delegate Chang for inviting two of our community residents today to discuss further ways that we can help our community. Today we're joined by North Lithicum Improvement Association President Steve Kuzer, and also the Secretary, Ms. Kathy Gordon. So we'd like to thank them and continue to welcome our residents out here to the state capitol to see the wonderful work that's taking place on behalf of the community residents. So thank you.
Young lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, please join me in celebrating my anniversary today. Because we are still newlyweds, in my eye, he is watching, so I just wanted to say happy anniversary.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is a good day for my Chief of Staff. Today is her birthday, and I want to acknowledge Becca Rhodes. Some of you all who've got a chance to meet Becca knows that she's the engine and the transmission that keeps our office rolling, so I want to wish her a happy birthday today.
Young lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Please join me in welcoming a friend up in the gallery, Joe Yap. He's shadowing me and the chair of HGO today.
Any other personal or guest announcements? Hearing none, seeing none, quorum call before adjourn.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 135 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stands adjourned until Thursday, April 6th at 3 p.m., Legislative Day, March 27th, and the chamber will be locked.